I love YouTube. I really do. So, for those of you who don't know, I posted 2 videos on YouTube that were taken down because I dared to. I guess I can't say that it's factual because that would go against YouTube's narrative. So I dared to have 2 opinions that were backed up by demonstrable sources, including NBC themselves, where I was criticizing NBC and some of their information. But YouTube decided that it went against their narrative, so of course they deleted them. And last night I just now got notifications where YouTube is actually allowing me now to appeal the decision. Well, long story short, I gave a very long-winded response in the appeal box and submitted it to YouTube, and I basically told them that they were subservient to China, because when I read the policy of the medical misinformation policy, they said that they were beholden to local officials, and lo and behold, the WHO, the World Health Organization. And for those of you who don't know, China has crept in unawares into the World Health Organization. They give it a lot of money, and they have become basically an instrument of communist China. So, to put it into this perspective, YouTube has a parent company, which is Google. Google is a company that is based here in the United States, and you would think that since they have been given so much opportunity to forward their business, their company, since they are so wealthy, you would think that they would want to thank the American people, thank the United States, and procure an environment that is conducive to the Constitution and the First Amendment in particular. But no, they are not interested in allowing for the First Amendment. They are subservient to China and the United Nations, which, in my opinion, we should have never got into to begin with. They want to be subservient to China. They do not want freedom of speech, and this is demonstrated in their own policy. Where they said that we are going to enact the information provided by local health officials as well as the WHO, and I think that is just hilarious, seeing as the WHO has actually contradicted the CDC, and they've made erroneous claims of medical misinformation themselves. And unfortunately, you used to be able to find those claims on YouTube, but you can't anymore. They've been all but totally taken down by YouTube, and you just cannot find that information when they're basically showing that the World Health Organization, as an agent of China, has made ridiculous claims in the past, which have not come to fruition. So, as I was saying, if they really wanted to be grateful to the United States, then they would tell their international market that they believe in elevating speech, that they don't believe in suppressing freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of ideas, so long as those ideas are not causing or inciting violence. And as far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, we are the only country in the world that supposedly still has a freedom of speech clause written into their constitution, written into their government. Other countries, even though they espouse that claim, it's not really, because because, for example, they will say that you are not entitled to hate speech. Well, what is hate speech? Hate speech is left to the people who decide, who can decide on a whim what hate speech is, and that is what's wrong with YouTube, and that's what's wrong with the idea of hate speech. It's just a ridiculous assertion that speech that you don't like, speech that offends you, just because you don't like it, just because it makes you uncomfortable, just because it offends you, that is deemed in many cases to be hate speech. That's ridiculous. That's asinine. Truth is truth regardless of popularity, and a lot of times the truth is not popular. So therefore, is the truth going to be hate speech now because we don't want to adhere to the truth? No. YouTube is an instrument of China, primarily, and an instrument of the United Nations. But to go back to the hate speech, it's one thing if I were truly inciting violence, if you say, for instance, fire in a theater. Now, a lot of people have said that you can't say fire in a crowded theater. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Well, you can if there's a legitimate fire there, if there's a legitimate cause for concern. But if you're just doing it to try to create a stampede wherein you're going to injure people, cause them harm, if you're trying to physically cause someone harm, I would consider that hate speech, because you hate that person enough to try to cause them violence, cause them harm, or kill them. And as a Christian, what did Jesus say? If you hate your brother, you're a murderer. So he elevated what murder is to hate. There is such a thing as hate speech, but it's not speech that you don't like. It's not speech that makes you uncomfortable. It's not speech that you disagree with. And if the shoe were on the other foot, I am a conservative, libertarian Christian. If someone were a far left radical atheist, even if I would vehemently disagree with them, I would still defend their right to say what they want to say, because all of reality begins in the mind. There is nothing in reality that didn't begin in a mind, whether it was our mind or whether it was God's mind. There is nothing that didn't begin in the mind. And if we do not have the ability, the freedom, I've said this many times before, if we don't have the ability and the freedom to exercise and express our thoughts, so long as we are not physically trying to harm someone, if we don't have the freedom to do that, then all other freedoms fall apart. How can we debate and defend all of our rights if we don't have the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press? How can we defend the Second Amendment, the right to be secure in your possessions, and all these various other freedoms that fall into the Bill of Rights and the Constitution? How can we expect to procure and defend those things if we're not allowed to speak freely on those things? And so, in my opinion, yes, the freedom of speech, the freedom of thought, is the most fundamental and paramount freedom that we can have. And YouTube, you would think that they would want to elevate speech. You would think that they would be grateful to America for giving them the power and the wealth that they have. You would think that they would say, here in America, we are going to fasten ourselves to the constructs of the Constitution, of the First Amendment. We are going to serve our country, and we are going to express freedom of speech, not only here, but around the world. And they do not want to do that because they are clearly kissing China's butt. As I have said, the World Health Organization is an instrument of China, and they are contradicting themselves when they say that we are going to listen to local health officials and the World Health Organization, because the two are not mutually synonymous. They have contradicted themselves multiple times. So this is really a fascist agenda. They are not for freedom of speech, and it used to be, and those of you who have been on YouTube for any length of time, you know this. Their motto used to be, YouTube, broadcast yourself. Well, that has pretty much all but gone away. It has quietly went into the darkness and disappeared. You do not hear YouTube saying this, and someone else mentioned this, so I can't take full credit for it. Someone else on YouTube, I don't remember his name, so I can't take full credit for it. But they used to be broadcast themselves, and they've lost that. They are now broadcast their narrative. They're not about broadcasting yourself. They're about broadcasting their narrative. That's what I was trying to say. But it's a really sad day. So I've been allowed to appeal, and we'll see if they allow me to be unsuspended. I have a very strong feeling that it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to get my videos back, but I'm going to try to keep on pressing forward. As I said in my original 2 videos, when I give my opinions, I try to say that they are my opinions. But when I give facts, I try to do my homework. I try to do my due diligence and give credible, or at least some tangible facts or evidence for my arguments. And to say that I'm spreading medical misinformation because I'm correcting NBC and I'm using their own words to correct them is asinine, in my opinion. Absolutely asinine. I cannot stress that enough. I really hope that in the future, Congress will wise up and take action to hold YouTube and these other social media platforms accountable. Because this idea that they don't want to be held liable for the content of their creators is a farce. Because Section 230 guarantees them the right to be protected from the content of its users in many cases. So again, it would be one thing if they were inciting violence, but having an opinion, even if that opinion is erroneous, people should have the right to express it. And as I said, I used to be very libertarian on this. I used to say that, if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. But since YouTube, Facebook, they are the free market of ideas. Sorry, I got a call. So they ought to put themselves under the Constitution, not above it. This is the most fast-paced way that we're going to be able to express ourselves is online, on social media platforms, on platforms like YouTube. And there is no debate when you're shutting down one side and amplifying another. There is no debate. As my pastor used to say, and I'll leave you guys with this: a lie can spread halfway around the world before the truth can even get its shoes on. So that's all I have to say. We'll see what happens. Y'all have a good one.